Hey everybody, how's it going? I am sirvenomik.
I am Mr. Swole PT.
Here we have for you today the Solomon Islands. That's right, we have the Solomon Islands on domination here. As you can see, the Solomon Islands breaks down into a Tier 5 and below match, which you will see quite a bit. You want to give us a breakdown here on the map, Mr. Swole?
Yeah, so in domination mode, you see that there's three spawn points classically. We have the A spawn, which is down in the southwest corner. B, which resides in the middle and kind of is between the three large island blockheads, providing lots of cover in interesting lanes. And up at C, in the northeastern corner, it is mainly protected by that little island outreach, and then there is a back island that allows for some cover in that northwest section of the cap.
All right, absolutely. So there's your three objectives here. They're not spawn points; they are cap points. Just FYI. We're gonna, if we want to talk about spawns here, as Mr. Soul's gonna go ahead and get started, heading to where he needs to go. As you see here, I have spawned down here at the H6, H7 line, and he spawned a little bit lower in the I6 line. Now you will see people spread out. A pretty good clip away from each other, all the way from the I5 line up to the F8, F9 line. I've seen people up there a few times on the bottom side spawn. Initially, a lot of people want basic meta here, I guess, if you want to call it that. Basic meta. C gets a lot of action and B gets a lot of action. You don't really see a whole lot toward A. And why that is, for one reason or another, people think that A is too far to go from the bottom side or the top side, conversely. Which we'll get into the top side here in a little bit. But Mrs. Swole, what are you trying to do here as a destroyer? And you spawning down on the bottom side. I see you running toward B. Is there any particular reason?
Yeah, I was just kind of doing it for this game, kind of getting closer to the points. But as a destroyer, right, the main goal is, of course, to pre-scout out areas while also trying to get cap advantage when possible. So moving up towards this lane, you'll notice I'm kind of blockading. What we want to try to avoid is barreling ourselves right into the middle within the first few minutes of the game. Uh, Other enemies are going to be approaching there. This is a high torp area, so you're going to see lots of torpedo strikes being flooded into the area, preemptively trying to strike onto people that are doing that quick rush. So the goal is to kind of get up in front, see what you can see, stay out lateral, and what you can do is use the cap to your advantage. So if I'm floating around the border of the cap and all of a sudden I notice it start to be taken, we can then make the safe assumption that somebody is within that peripheral circle, and then you know that you are not alone, and you can prepare to set up yourself for attacks through the two lanes that you're going to be able to shoot from.
Absolutely. Swole has gone ahead and killed me here, so I can float around the map and give you guys kind of a little bit up closer view of the maps that we're talking about, or what we are doing here. As you can see, coming from where I spawn, which is right here, what I had to do was come up into this zone, and Mr. Swole does the same thing. This is Torpedo Alley, is what he was trying to get across there. You have this side here, and then on the other side, looking at it this way, here is your B look of the cap. Now you'll see a lot of people sit behind this little island and try to cap and shoot launch stuff over the wall, as where you'll see a lot of people back here dropping torpedoes, as Mr. Swole is doing here for us. Thank you, sir. On the other hand, on the other side of the B island here is an island that I particularly like to go through on the right-hand side of the volcano. I don't mind putting myself into this little island here and try not to go past this point right here. As I'm ping, I can't ping it because I'm dead, but this little point right here on the map, I don't like to go past this, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to get the potato to come through, and he's going to come through and drop his torps down this direction. So I get to here and I slow down and I start backing up and wait for them to come out. I have a lot of success on it. Now heading from the A spawn, heading from the south side spawn to the A spawn, in a battleship or a cruiser, what I like to do is I like to come through this direction here, not too close to the islands because of torpedoes, but out far enough to where you can dodge the torpedoes and still look and maybe get a couple of pot shots over at a passing battleship or over at a passing cruiser. And maybe if you are in a cruiser, you can shoot at some of the destroyers that are here at B. And then from there, we will follow this island down to A and try to be close to the island here is what I like to do. How do you like to play this A here from the
Yeah,
south
so when
side?
I'm doing A, I'm playing it right now, kind of demonstrating what I like to do. So if we notice this area where I'm hugging, I am able to take the cap while having a very protected angle. So if we look at the mini map area, in order for a ship to one spot me, and then not only that, but get an attack on me, they really have to overextend themselves and put themselves at least in that H2 blockade. And as
Right.
long as you're not over here by yourself, if an enemy is doing that, one, you're going to spot them. So they should become the focused target of many of the enemies.
All right.
So
So
when you're
look.
taking this A cap, make sure you kind of hug these peripherals and block those points of view.
Absolutely. Now, looking at it from the other side of the A cap here, I can't see him. If I was on the enemy team, I would not be able to see Mr. Swole here. So they will come this way. They will come at A from here. Being in a battleship, they like to ride this one line. I don't know why, but it's never been a very good idea, in my opinion, hugging the one line because you have one direction to go. If you need to escape, you either turn right and you're riding the map line, or you turn left and then you can go back in toward a little bit of safety coming from the north side spawn. Now, as he moves around the as he moves around the A cap, he's going to head up toward B, and we're going to show you some of what it looks like on the other side after you spawn it and going into B. Swole has made his way from the A cap into the B cap here. Now, when you're spawning on the north side, which we'll talk about north side spawn here in just a second, when you're spawning on the north side, this is where we were talking about. You cannot see these guys. If you have a CV, his job will be to put planes into the B cap to spot the torps for you, to spot the people that might be sitting over the other side of the B cap, as you see Mr. Swole here from that island that I don't like to go push past. F6 line. You cannot see him. He is in the cap and he is stopping the cap. So for us over here on the B, we'd have to come all the way out here and come all the way around and be open to everything. So we don't want to push this cap. We want to be very, very patient, I believe. What do you think?
Yeah, I think having a ship holding this spot where they're completely protected outside of maybe an aerial strike puts a good advantage. So you could put somebody over here. Maybe he doesn't get the cap completely by himself, but he can keep it contested and allow your team to kind of move up. When teams see that an area is being fought for, they tend to move towards it. They like to move where the action is. So if you can create that action scenario, you can kind of direct your team to come down and assist you.
Absolutely. And Mr. Swell, go ahead and move on to the other side of the cap here so we can look at what ships look like when they are on the other side of this capture point. Now, guys, we'll go ahead and talk about the spawn points here while he's making that move. We will spawn here behind these two little dingy islands here. And if you guys have ever spawned here at the C3 line, you know that you have to immediately turn sometimes. But they will spawn anywhere. I've seen them anywhere from D2 all the way up to B what is that, B5, I guess. I've seen people all the way up there. So those are the spawn points. You're going to tend to spawn more toward Charlie, and we'll talk about going for Charlie here in just a second. Okay, so Mr. Swole has now made his way into the other side of the cap. Now tell me what you're seeing here and what you're thinking if you're coming up onto this side of the cap from the top spawn.
So we have another little alcove area that you can kind of park your ship. But if you notice, I have a wide open view of anyone that is kind of coming up this
That's right.
lane here that I'm
We
painting on the map.
are looking right behind your ship here, and we are seeing you beach yourself into the island and looking across into that open lane. Now we're going to go ahead and switch over to the other side of the lane. And you can see him when he was running through. Go ahead and back up a little bit for me. There you go.
Yep.
You can see him just barely. And if you had a shot at 8 kilometers, then you could probably take this and do some damage to him if you're in that cruiser coming across going toward A, like we were at the beginning of the game. Now, as we're sitting here looking at it, Mr. Swole, being a destroyer, is probably just going to blind fire torps toward the opening, or even toward the middle here, trying to get that potato coming across the middle here.
Yeah, this lane I'm about to shoot some torps across is a very good spot to predict, because people do like to make this transition across this path. So
There
if
you
you can
go. And
preemptively throw these.
let's see what it looks like if we sit here and we get to this point of island that we normally would like to go, where I would normally like to go. You can see if we continue to move on at a really good clip, we're gonna run into these blind torpedoes. Now, they're not going to be able to see you if you're back this far. You're not going to be able to do much damage unless they come at you. So we're wanting to kill those potatoes. So don't be the potato, right? Our go at Charlie from the south side spawn, as we had to start over the game. So talk a little bit about C from the south side spawn, Mr. Swole.
So when you're approaching C with the south side, you have to keep in mind that north side strategy that they're probably going to be employing. So anything that comes around this little mountain tip that is extending into the sea cap, you need to be careful for. Destroyers on the other side are definitely going to be moving through that area, throwing out torps, trying to hit anybody within any sort of torp line around that corner, preventing you to come in from sea. So if you're a battleship, if you're a larger ship, you might want to be taking more of this lateral route, kind of that you see my ship pointing on now. If you're a destroyer, you want to be kind of hugging more towards these islands, taking kind of this more direct route. And it's, again, providing you cover, allowing you to move up freely. Again, if you're going to see an enemy, that means that they're really overextended hanging out in this cap. And again, that should become the focus target of your teammates.
Absolutely. If you guys see priority one, if you're going up toward Charlie, is obviously the destroyers. You want to kill the destroyers as fast as you can. If you minimize the impact of the destroyer on a game, you have a huge advantage. If you take one out of the game and you still have 2 or 3 destroyers, you have a huge advantage over the enemy team. Area of deniability torps, just a flat distraction of the torpedoes. Getting torpedoes coming at a battleship and making the battleship turn might open them up for the enemy's battleships to citadel them or get a big nice pen damage on them. So definitely want to obviously take out the destroyers as soon as possible. Now Mr. Swole has come up to Charlie here, and he's going to sit on the outside of the island, and we're just going to go a little bit ahead of him and turn around and look at what the other side of this looks like here, coming from the top side of the Solomon Islands. As you're coming in to see here, you really can't see him at all. So you definitely want to protect yourself. Now, these strategies are basic, all right? Try not to push past the island unless you absolutely have to. If you see a destroyer and you're spotted, you might as well go ahead and shoot. Drop your torps at something that you might be thinking that's coming around the corner. Maybe one set. Try not to drop all 3 of your sets, because if you miss, then you have one as a defensive set of torpedoes. It's something awesome to see. Somebody coming around. Oh, he's dropped all of his sets of torpedoes. Now let's come around the corner on him. Guess what? There's another set right in your face. I've done it. I've had it done to me before. So it's basic stuff. Now, Mr. Swole, go ahead and make your way around here and come over and
Approach it from the north.
Mr. Swole has come around the opposite direction here, and we're going to look at, from his point of view, of what he's seeing when he's coming in this direction. Now, mind you, the enemy where he was at before, we're going to pretend that there's somebody there, and he will hard spot these people if you get within 1.9 to 2 kilometers of the enemy. You can hard spot them, and that will give your team, say your team is out at the B7, B8, B9 square here in Charlie, you will be able to maybe get some fire on this guy to deter him, maybe back him out, or even make him pop his smoke to where he has to go away, or play very defensive.
Yeah, what's great about this kind of little alcove area is the distance across this little island is less than, like we talked about, 2 kilometers. So you can hard detect. And if you notice my positioning of my ship, I've placed myself. So if an enemy does decide to bust around this corner to try to take advantage of the fact that he can see me, I can easily launch spreads of torpedoes across this gap, and as he approaches that corner, he is going to come face to face with those with little to no time to maneuver to try to avoid.
Absolutely. He will have to maneuver in or hit his brakes. And if he hits his brakes, then you can run up on him and start shooting him with your guns. That's another thing that you need to do as a destroyer. You have guns, use them. They might not
Yes.
be very good in Japanese destroyers, but you can use your guns to cause some significant amount of damage uh, to the
And not
enemy
only can you
destroyer.
destroy modules, you can set things on fire. So even if it is 2 to 300, a salvo, if you're looking at the low side, that chance of fire, that chance of module destruction, makes it worth it. Don't sit there thinking your only weapon
Hey,
is your torpedoes.
the most important thing, you can knock out torpedoes, and that's one less thing, metal fish, that you have to try to dodge.
Hmm?
That's right.
Another good angle area. So if you notice, I'm on this northern side of the island. This perspective also gives you shots. So if you don't want to hug that blind corner and use that, this same positioning here allows you to see that kind of field of view from the last time, allowing you to hit enemies that are going to be pushing around that corner, which they must if they want to try to cap the area. And can put out that defensive area to turn enemies around, deter them from trying to get the cap.
Now, Mr. Swole, I see you dropping your torps here. Now, are you trying to hit somebody, or are you just trying to get them area deniability
This is
here?
area deniability. I use defensive torps a lot, so anytime my torps are up on cooldown, if there's anywhere where I know an enemy might be approaching, I will send defensive torps, and that's just good for, again, suppressing attacks, thwarting pushes, and you never know, you might get lucky. An enemy could be running around that corner thinking that he is going to get the drop on one, and next thing you know, you end up with a devastating strike.
All right, now I've seen you've made your way up to the top side of this back island here at Charlie, and you are in a Kamikaze R, which arguably has some of the better torps at Tier 5. 7 kilometer torpedoes, you can get these all the way across the Charlie cap. Now, there's some,
Yeah, so I'll launch a
uh,
set here, and you can kind of watch, and
we
I'm
will.
peeking that corner. So again, that area that we talked about where they can hang out to try to get the cap without being spotted.
Absolutely. And we were following these torpedoes to see. Now go ahead and hit your brakes. Don't go any further deep in, and we'll see how far away that these torps will go. At 7 kilometers, they'll come probably out toward here. But area deniability is something that a lot of people don't understand. I think that area deniability torps, if you put out a set of torps in this general area and somebody's close to it, that forces them to rethink their strategy of moving as we see the torps finally die out here. That's a pretty good clip. That's a pretty
Yeah.
good ways out there. So use your torpedoes. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you're terrible because you missed your torpedoes." I'm like, I wasn't trying to hit anybody. It was just trying to get them out of that zone as you send another set here. All right, so Mr. Swole has now come and is approaching the same island from a different perspective. Now, talk a little bit about what you're thinking here, Mr. Swole, as you come in to see from the left side of the island on the backside of Charlie here.
So what I'm going to try to do here from this kind of approach is I'm going to utilize the concealment of the ship to try to catch anyone who is approaching this cap before they notice me. So as I get myself knocked off this island here, a little bit of a clipping, you'll notice I'm going to ride just around the borders of this buoy. Now, being in a Kamikaze R, my detection currently right now is at a 6.1. So the radius or the diameter of the cap is exceeding over that limit. So as I'm riding this border and capping, one, I'll notice if an enemy is actually approaching in because it'll stall out. And this will still allow me to cover myself without being spotted and to realize that an enemy is within the vicinity of the area.
Absolutely. Now, when you're out here and you get detected, what do you do, my friend?
So in a detection area, right, first, don't panic. As soon as you see that spot, the first thing you shouldn't do is pop that smoke. Let it kind of ride out. Try to get yourself away from the area, but take a look. If it's a single enemy, it's not necessarily worth it to burn the smoke. But if you do get stuck in a situation, right, we can pop. This again wouldn't be the ideal line. I want to try to block as much line of sight from the enemy as I'm making my retreat as possible.
That's right. Now, when you're popping your smoke, We've seen a lot of destroyers run into the cap and immediately pop their smoke without being detected. This is huge. Hey, I don't know where you are, but guess what? You've popped your smoke, so guess what? We now know where you are, and you're going to eat a bunch of torpedoes, or you're going to see a lot of torpedoes coming into the smoke. So as you see here, he has trailed his smoke away. Now, when he got to the point where he was facing away and the smoke was popping up behind him, he was invisible. He has dropped off a detection. So this is a very good strategic play to get out of the cap, get out of danger, and maybe wait for your team to come up. Also, you leave the smoke out there for about a minute, minute and a half, depending on what destroyer you're playing, or what country destroyer you're playing, as a better probably. And then your team can probably roll into this smoke as well and use it for some defensive capabilities. And as you see, he didn't sit in his smoke. He got out of his smoke, and him being out of his smoke, he is going to be able to spot the enemy team and let the rest of his team start firing and raining down shells on the enemy team to try to take out some of their hit points.
Yeah, I left my smoke in such a way that one, it left it partially in the cap and allowed me to retreat in a safe manner, increasing the distance that I would be from the enemy. It could also allow a teammate to ride in and take that same smoke trail into the cap to allow it to support. So it's kind of a two-way play there.
All right, boys. Well, that is Solomon Islands destroyer play. Basic strategy here. I don't really have much left about basic strategy. Now, after everything is capped, say they cap, you're at C and they cap B, and then A, your objective as a destroyer is threefold. One, screening for your team. Two, capping. And B, what's the last one?
Torp spreads.
Torp spreads. I guess that works as well. If anybody else has any questions, please like, comment, subscribe, and all that. And if you have a particular map that you're not really sure about and you would like us to tackle in our next video, please let us know. I am sirvenomik, and he is
Mr. Swole PT.
Thank you very much. This has been Warship Strategy, and we will see y'all next time. Don't be a potato.